Right to be Read podcast, episode number 110, interview with Nick Stephenson.
You are listening to the Right to be Read podcast, and this is your host, Ani Alexander.
Hello everyone, it's me, Ani Alexander, and as always, I will try to inspire and encourage you in this episode too. Today we have another interview, and I will try to find out how the author has reached the success and how we might use his techniques too in order to get there soon as well. Today I'm talking to a fiction author because I've decided that, it's not fair that we have this disbalance with having more interviews with non-fiction authors, and I will make sure that we get back the balance and we will have more of the fiction authors, because fiction book marketing is slightly different and it may be more challenging in some way. So let's just see how fiction authors are doing. And today my guest is Nick Stephenson. He was born and raised in England, and he's a fiction author who writes mainly mysteries and thrillers. And basically his approach to writing is to hit hard, hit fast, and leave as few spelling errors as possible. But besides that, Nick Stephenson is also a speaker at the Self-Publishing Success Summit, about which I would like to tell you before we start the actual interview. Well, basically, I want to share about this event with you because I'm really excited about it. I think that it's one of the best self-publishing summits that has been out there. And the good thing is that you don't have to travel and spend too much money and time on getting there because it's online. So basically, along with Nick Stephenson, 37 world-changing authors and entrepreneurs reveal how to write, market, and publish your first book and use it to get to six figures. And they have 37 interviews with very interesting and great people, most of whom I have interviewed already, but I'm sure you will get tons of value out of it. They have James Altucher, they have Joanna Penn, Jeff Goins, and Pat Flynn, Steve Scott, Nick Stephenson, Matt Stone from BackBooks, Nick Loper, and Dory Clark, and many, many others who I'm sure will be really sharing lots of value. And Suzanne Rowan is there as well. So I greatly encourage you to go there and register to the summit, because it's free for now and you don't have to pay anything, and you can follow all those interviews which will be packed with value. So basically just hop over to www.anialexander.com/SPSS, and you can register for your free access and be part of this really great virtual summit, which will help you succeed as self-published author. So I guess we had quite a long intro this time, so let's hop over to the interview now. Welcome to the Right to be Read podcast, Nick. I'm really happy to have you over.
Oh, thank you very much for being here, to let me be here. I mean, this is absolutely great because it's not a 1 a.m. phone call, which I think we're both quite used to dealing with people in the US. So I'm really happy. It's daylight. I think it's at a sensible time in the afternoon for you. So awesome. Yeah. It's great to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, which makes me think that maybe, I should interview more people from the UK.
Yeah, absolutely.
It makes things much easier in all aspects. Okay, so let's start from the very start. I mean, very beginning. Let's just think about, were you from those people who dreamed to become writers?
I think it's one of those interesting things to look back on. Was I'd always enjoyed writing as a kid, and during high school and university, I was always doing creative writing courses and script writing and stuff like this. But I think one of the problems is, when you're at school, no one kind of sits down with you. You don't get these career counselors don't sit you down and say, you could be an author. This is what you should do, because it's not like an established career path for people. And it's certainly not recognized by the education system as something that is feasible. And, for obvious reasons, it never really has been until the last few years, really. And since Kindle came along, it's just not really been something that people set out to do. And people who do manage it, it just seems to be a case of being in the right place at the right time. But since Kindle came along, so we're talking sort of 2010, 2011, and started picking up steam with indie writers, it's become much more possible to actually break into this as a career. So I'd never really realistically thought about being an author or a writer as something that I could do as a full-time job. But I'd always wanted to do some kind of business of my own, something that was creative, something that I owned, and something that I could kind of stand behind and be proud of. So when Kindle came along and all the news press was about how people were finally being able to make a living from their writing, it kind of just made sense. And, this was back in 2011, sort of time when I first became aware of it as a possibility. I read a few of the indie books that were making it big and thought, these are absolutely fantastic. And there's no reason why I shouldn't do this either. Worst case scenario, I have a go at writing a book and I enjoy it. And, maybe I don't sell anything, but I've had a great time. And I enjoyed writing the book so much and actually managed to sell a few copies in the first month that I decided to keep on going. And really, it's kind of carried on like that. So I think it's a product of circumstances and the changing market that's allowed me to do this, because I'd never really planned on it. And, those are always the most exciting career changes anyway. So I'm not complaining.
Well, and I guess you being able to see the opportunity and having the courage to actually make the first steps required to follow that.
Absolutely. I mean, publishing a book, any kind of book, whether it's a novel or a how-to book or a short guide or a big autobiography, whatever it is you're publishing, you're putting a little bit of yourself out into the world for people to, basically critique. And it's, it's very nerve-wracking. And I understand why people have this kind of barrier that they don't want to do it. But if you've got even the slightest inkling of, there's a book inside you, now is the best time there's ever been to get out there and do it. So it's been amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can imagine. So basically, since you started in 2011, I guess you had, what we call a normal job before that, and you were doing something else?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was working in a marketing role for a big international company. I won't name names in case they're listening. Yeah. They've got their spies tracking me down. But no, I've done pretty much every job you can think of. In university, I was waiting tables behind the bar. I was working in call centers. After graduation, I graduated in 2008. For crying out loud, that's like the worst time to graduate. And I was doing English literature, and I switched to law because I thought it would be a bit more practical and would get me a job. But you graduate into a recession and no one gets a job. So, 3 years later, I kind of transitioned into marketing. And I had a great time doing it, but I always wanted to do something myself. So, I worked that full-time job until, about 15 months ago now was when I left. But I learned a lot, but I've always wanted to go out and do something on my own. So this was the perfect opportunity.
Okay, so let's just follow your journey. I just want to imagine this. You went along, you completed your first book, and it was fiction, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you completed your novel, and it was out there. You self-published it. And then what? Were you like all the others, just checking your stats and seeing what's happening? And
it becomes an obsession. And don't underestimate how much work it takes to get your book out there in the first place. No one's going to kid you and say that it's easy to write a book, whatever kind of book it is. I spent 8 months getting the first book published. And, the first edition was pretty poor, by looking back on it with my standard today, in my opinion. But I went through a lot of revisions and got it up to scratch where I wanted it to be. So it was maybe, almost a year after I started writing that I actually got it out there, which I think is important because a lot of people sit down to start writing a book. And, 6 months later, they've either not finished it or they don't think it's very good and they're tempted to just throw in the towel.
Oh, yeah.
But, just don't, give yourself permission to take your time. I mean, you do get faster at it over time. You really do. Every new book that you write is quicker, is easier, is less painful, and is usually a better product at the end as well. So, I mean, it was a long journey to get the book published, and it finally came out in February 2012. And the day I released it, I think I told a couple of dozen people who, I'd kind of networked with over the previous year, maybe sold 50 or 60 copies in the first month, which, was fantastic because these people were strangers, basically. It wasn't like my parents were buying it, which was just the most amazing feeling. I mean, I thought, if I could sell one book to one stranger and they like it, there is absolutely nothing stopping me from scaling that up into the thousands or tens of thousands. It's entirely possible. So even getting one sale from a stranger just absolutely made my day. It was amazing. And then over time, and we can talk about this in more detail, but as more books were added and I got smarter with how I was marketing, then that just increased and increased and increased. And now I'm at the point where I've got 6 novels out there, a couple of non-fiction books, but actually I'm focusing more on the marketing side of things to, more effectively promote the books I've already got rather than trying to put out new books, every month or every 2 months, because to me, that's not sustainable. I mean, some people can do it, but I prefer to more effectively market the stuff I've already got. And then I can write a book in my own time. There's less pressure and it's a generally more enjoyable experience. But, it took me a long time to learn that.
Okay, so I guess that, once you focus on marketing and you sell more of the existing books, then you don't worry about the finances anymore and just, take your time and enjoy the whole process of writing the new one.
Exactly. I mean, even with very good indie sales, I mean, you're still not likely to be shifting millions of copies. I mean, even the top-selling indie authors aren't shifting millions and millions of copies a year. But they sell plenty to make a great living because the royalties are so high. But the point is that even if you are selling thousands or tens of thousands of books, 95% plus of your audience still hasn't heard of you. So there's a lot of opportunity to grow. And that's what's so exciting. So this is why I decided to focus more on the marketing, because I knew that, while I've only, and I say this in inverted commas, only got 6 books out there, there's 99% of my audience haven't even read one of them yet. So I'm really excited to find those people.
Yeah, sounds great. Well, you mentioned that, by putting the book out there, you kind of put yourself in a vulnerable situation by giving the permission to your audience to kind of, provide feedback. So what kind of feedback did you receive with your first book and how did you deal with the negative feedback?
The initial feedback was great, actually. I mean, I was really, really enthused by how much people were liking it. I mean, this was a relatively small number of people, of course, at the time. But those people who did read it and who did leave a review left a good review, and it was great. And you get the occasional 1- and 2-star reviews, and they don't bother me anymore because at the time it's a very personal thing. Early on when I'd released it and people would now and again leave a critical review, I'd take it very personally and it would be, it would ruin my whole day. But then I kind of changed my mindset and I figured, this is obviously someone who doesn't like this kind of book. Right? So, I've got loads of 5-star reviews and loads of good reviews. The bad reviews are in the very, very small minority. So the book itself is fine, but these people just don't like this kind of book. But they took a chance on it. So I would much rather that someone took a chance on my book and not like it than never take a chance on it at all. So I see a negative review now as, in some ways, in a lot of ways, a good thing, because it means that people are giving me a go, and that's all I ask. So for me, it really doesn't bother me anymore. It did at first, but, you've got to be a bit more pragmatic and practical about it. And, it's that mindset, don't take it personally. As long as the majority of reviews are good, then you've got a good book, and just don't worry about the odd person who doesn't like it.
Yeah, that's my approach too. It's kind of, it's very unpractical and too emotional to kind of to spoil your mood and
it can consume your life. You really can.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, actually, let's just follow your journey. As I assume, in the very beginning, you didn't have large audience in place and online presence most probably. So you were basically starting from scratch, more or less?
Yeah, starting from absolutely zero, like no one on a mailing list or a Facebook page, nothing.
Okay.
Absolutely nothing. This was something I had to build up over time.
Okay, so how did you approach, like which were the very first steps that you took and which were kind of quite effective in terms of building up your audience?
Well, in the first year, I think I followed the conventional kind of knowledge, which was the best kind of marketing is just writing a new book. And, now I think that's a myth. I don't think that's a useful approach. But at the time, this is what everyone was saying. If you just write as many books as possible, then one of them will eventually stick and you will sell all the other ones. And I thought, okay, let's give it a go. I wrote 6 books in a little over a year. 5 more books in the year after I published my first book. And, it didn't really make much difference. Sales went up slightly, but there was no kind of breakthrough, certainly not enough to live full time on. Mm-hmm. And, by the end of my 6th book, I was getting a bit tired. I was pinning all of my hopes on the latest release being the one that would catapult me into superstardom. I think it's a common feeling that people have. Mm-hmm. And I would notice when I'd publish a new book, sales would go up slightly and then they'd dip and then they'd basically go back to normal again within a couple of weeks. And I thought, this just isn't sustainable. I'm going to be having to write, 10 books a year and then hoping that something's going to happen in order for this to work. And that's no way to run a business, because you're kind of hoping that something's going to happen. It is not something that you can control. So this kind of idea of just write more books just went out the window at this point. 1 year later, that's gone. So I think, what can I do instead? And then this advertising service called BookBub came along, I think at the time. And I think most authors have heard of these guys. And what they do is they will email out about discounted books to their audience, and you pay them to get featured. And I had my first BookBub advert, and I sold thousands and thousands and thousands of books in that month. It was absolutely incredible. And then the light bulb went off in my head, and I was thinking, these guys, their entire business model is get somebody's email address who is interested in books and then send them emails about books and ask them to buy. And I thought, this is so simple but so effective. What if I did this for myself? So instead of relying on services like BookBub to accept me, and they don't accept everybody. There's no guarantee you will be advertised with them. So there's no way you can plan ahead. So I thought, what if I had my own sort of private BookBub kind of thing that I could use whenever I needed to? So all of a sudden, click, my mind shift changes. I'm no longer thinking about let's just write as many books as possible. I'm thinking about let's get as many readers as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if they buy my book today, but I want to get their contact details so that I can tell them about my books later. Mm-hmm. And that's what I focused on. So my number one focus became getting new readers signed up onto my email list, getting them onto my Facebook page, wherever it was, but focusing on email, getting them signed up, building a bit of a relationship with them. And then when I needed to run a promotion or a launch, I would email out to these guys whom I knew already liked my books, because otherwise they wouldn't be on my email list. And, all of a sudden I was doing launches where I was getting into the top 200 on Amazon, the top 10 on Nook and iTunes and Kobo, and I was selling tens of thousands of dollars worth of books a month. And that was, after maybe 8 to 12 months of building that list up, I finally got to that point. And now I've got these people basically for life. So I'm building a career based on an asset, my email list, an asset that I control, which is the number one thing for me, is having that control, super important.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's very interesting. But basically, let's just, dig into more details about this email list building thing. Many people are kind of, used to getting this, ethical bribe of getting something in order to leave their email addresses with you. So what are you offering them when they come to your landing page or wherever they go to subscribe?
Well, this is an approach that I call, it's a system basically that I call reader magnets. And this is based on the idea of what's generally known as a lead magnet. Mm-hmm. So like you just said, if you just ask someone for an email address, chances are they will not give it to you. But if you ask someone, if you offer someone something that they want and then say, give me your email address and I'll send it to you, you will get much, much better results. We're talking 100 times better results if you do that. So with reader magnets, what I was doing was I was finding something book related to give people in return for an email address. So in my case, because I had 6 books, I just offered them one of my books for free. I said, if you join my readers group, if you join my email list, give me your email address, then I will send you this book for free. And then, you can read it. And then I can follow up with these people later on with my other books. And, it worked amazingly because at first I was doing what most authors do. Now, 99% of authors aren't asking for email addresses. And out of those people who are asking for email addresses, 99% of them are literally just saying, join my newsletter. They're just saying, give me your email address and not offering anything. But when you do offer something, you get much, much better results. And that's really the step change, was offering my readers and my potential readers something of value that they would be interested in. So, for fiction, you might offer them, if you've got loads of books out there, you could offer them one of your books for free. You could offer them a bonus chapter. You could write like some character histories in a little file. You could, for nonfiction, you could do cheat sheets, you could do videos, you could do case studies. The list is endless. As long as it's something related to your work that your readers are going to be interested in, you will get them to sign up to your email list. And then that your list is full of targeted people, because otherwise, they wouldn't have joined. So it's win-win, really. The readers are getting something cool, you're getting their email address, and everybody wins.
Okay, I see. Well, I can see how it works in case they already kind of know you and like your books. Does this work when you're just a new author who they don't know what you write about, or, they are not familiar to you yet?
Yes, absolutely. Like I said, 99% plus of people in the world have never heard of me, but they still go and sign up for my email list because they like getting free books. It's good, making sure I've got a really attractive cover. I've got, I'm talking about what the book's about, why they're going to enjoy it. People will see this offer and they will sign up for it because they're interested in checking it out and reading it. So you don't have to be an established brand to take advantage of this. It's a way to build your brand. So it's kind of the other way around.
Yeah, I interviewed Mark Dawson, and he was doing a Facebook advertising to kind of drive traffic for people to get his first book of the series for free, and it worked amazingly for him. So how are you dealing with this? Where are you getting those people who
pretty much up? Everywhere. It's Facebook ads are great. You have to learn how to advertise on Facebook before you can have much of a chance of it. And it's a bit of a learning curve. So, for people who are just starting out, literally all you need to do is in the front and in the back of your books on Amazon or iTunes or Nook or Kobo, wherever they are, in the front and the back of the books, just have an advert that says, if you enjoy this book, you can get another book for free when you join my email list. Or if you're not offering a book, you can say, get a free cheat sheet or get a free case study or get some bonus chapters or whatever it might be when you join my readers group or my email group or whatever you want to call it. You can advertise in your books, for this kind of thing. And you can use free promotions. Every retailer out there offers the ability to do free promotions. If you run a free promotion, you can get thousands and thousands of downloads without trying all that hard. And that's thousands and thousands of people who see that advert and will potentially sign up to your mailing list. So you don't make any money off the free book, of course, but then later on down the line, when you have a new book out there or you have a promotion you want to run, you've got all these people ready and waiting who are your perfect reader, your perfect customer, and they're ready to hear about your new work. So, it works amazingly well. So you can go out there, you can pay for adverts via Facebook or Google or wherever you want to advertise, or you can use free promotions on Amazon or the other ebook retailers. On Amazon, and in fact, all the retailers, you can do permanently free books if you really want to. which works great. You know, you can have a book that's permanently free and is consistently sending you traffic to your email newsletter, you know, on autopilot without you having to touch it. You can use giveaways like Rafflecopter is one idea. You could offer some paperbacks or hardcovers of authors in your genre, and people who enter the giveaway, you can ask if they would like to get one of your books for free as well. You know, keep everybody who's interested, and discard the rest. You know, there's endless ways to build a mailing list. There is no shortage of traffic on the internet for you to take advantage of. You know, it's just, you have to go out there. You either have to work hard to get it organically, or you have to pay for it. You know, either way, there is no shortage. And if you've not got a traffic problem, you know, and no one has a traffic problem, all you need to do is convert that random traffic into subscribers by offering them something in return for an email address. And then, you know, you've got the basis of a list building strategy that works wonders.
Yeah. And I think that by putting that advert in the very beginning of your book, even those who don't buy your book but look inside it in the first pages to see if it's their piece of cake or not, they will still get that link.
Absolutely. Yeah. Put it in as many places as you possibly can, because there's always a possibility that if it's just in the back of your book, people won't see it. So, you know, put it in the front, put it in the back, put it in, you know, your author description, you know, mention it in the product description as well if you can, put it on your website, put it on your Facebook page. Everywhere there are people, put that advert, and it really does make a huge difference.
Okay, I see. And you mentioned that besides fiction, you also have a couple of non-fiction books. And I presume that the potential audience of those non-fiction books is a bit different. I mean, the overlap shouldn't be that big with your fiction readers and non-fiction audience. How do you deal with that? Do you build like two audiences simultaneously? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's tools out there that will allow you to build an email list and keep it segmented without you having to worry about it. So, you know, for anyone listening who's getting that kind of that tech fear, don't worry. There's tools out there, free tools that will allow you to do all this, you know, on autopilot, so you don't have to manually do anything. And then it's just a case of keeping your audience separate. So where I've got fiction and non-fiction, I keep those completely separate because they're interested in different things. So I don't want to email my non-fiction guys about my fiction work because they're not going to be interested, and vice versa. You know, that's just going to annoy people. You want to make sure you're only emailing them about stuff that they're interested in. And if you're a fiction author, and you're writing in different genres, you know, you can keep those separate as well. So, you know, one list for romance, one list for westerns and sci-fi, you know, keep them separate. Make sure that people are only getting information about things that they're going to be interested in. That's the key thing, because you don't want to annoy these people.
Yeah.
Because they've taken a bit of a leap of faith. You know, they've gone and downloaded your book, and while it is free, you know, they have to invest time to read it. So, you know, you've got to respect them, and you've got to make sure that you're, you know, treating them right.
Yeah, I see. And do you kind of email them about new releases, or you have some content that you share with them periodically to keep them engaged?
I try to email them a couple of times a month. You know, if I don't have a promotion that I'm running, I'll email them about books that other authors have written that I think they'll like. So if in 1 month I'm not running a promotion or I haven't got a launch, you know, I'll talk about books that I've read that I think my audience will enjoy, and I'll say, you know, just read this book, it's fantastic. You know, you can go check it out on these stores if you want to buy it. You know, otherwise, you know, shoot me an email back and tell me what you enjoy reading, and then I can read about what they like.
Okay.
You know, it's just keeping that engagement going, really, because if you leave an email list stale for too long, you know, let's say 6 months you've not emailed them, and then all of a sudden you send out a launch email, chances are a lot of these people won't remember that they signed up in the first place, which can cause problems because they'll put you in the spam folder.
True.
And you don't want that. So, you know, once or twice a month, if I've not got any promotions to run, I'll just recommend some books that I've enjoyed that I think people will like, you know, and it just keeps things going, keeps people engaged.
Okay, I see. Well, it seems like you've got grip on everything, and you've reached the stage where many writers kind of dream of getting into, which is making full-time income and doing solely what you love, and write books and, you know, do everything around those. So why did you decide to create this course, which is called Get Your First 10,000 Readers?
Because so many people asked me to do it, I decided it would be a good idea. I mean, I wrote my nonfiction books, which are, they touch on some of the things that I go into a lot of detail about in the course. But the problem with books are that, people might pay $4 or $5 for a book, right? But the chances of them going out and implementing it and really working hard to implement those strategies is pretty low. Number one, because it's a book and it's quite difficult to show them exactly what they need to do in enough detail using text. And secondly, $4 or $5 ebook, it's not a big investment. People aren't going to be, worried that they've spent all this money and not doing anything. So, a lot of people I found, they read the book and then they don't do anything with it. I get emails from authors who have read these books who are asking me questions that are, answered in the books themselves. And I started thinking, how can I better educate people? And it's about education. And, from a book, you get a lot of information, stats and data information. But when you go into a course, you go in to learn something, you're getting an education, which is different. It's about having a system that you can follow that is going to work and that you're going to work hard to implement it and have that support network as well. So for me, having a proper course was absolutely the way to go. So I spent a long time building it. And now we have hundreds and hundreds of authors going through the material, and people are just absolutely loving it, getting some great results, improving their sales, getting more readers, getting tons of reviews, and, just really enjoying marketing for the first time. Because, when you're an author, you don't want to spend your whole day marketing, do you? Hustling. You want to write stuff. That's the whole point of why you're doing this. So I'm showing people how they can build this email list and build this engagement and this audience and how to sell effectively without having to spend all day doing it. Because once you have these systems set up and ready to go, they basically run on autopilot, and you can get back to writing or spending time with your family or, skydiving or whatever it is you want to do. And, that's what people love, something that just works in the background.
I see. And this 10,000 readers, I mean, is this like a real figure you're putting in there, or it's just a figurative thing?
So I based it on my experience. So I spent about 8 months building up an email list. And in that time, I reached close to 15,000 readers in that time. And, I'm convinced that people can get to 10,000, a lot quicker than I got to that level, because I spent about half that time doing it wrong. So basically everything I'm teaching people in the course is the stuff that I know works. So all the experimenting, all the trial and error that I spent thousands and thousands of dollars on that didn't work, that's gone. And I'm only focusing on the stuff that I know absolutely works. So, I know that people can get to that level quickly if they implement the strategies in the course, for sure. So, it's a realistic number. And I think it's, once you get to 10,000 readers, you can quite feasibly make a living from your writing, if you're doing it right. Absolutely. So it was a chosen figure, one that I think people can realistically get to and, make a good living from.
Okay. Now I'm going to ask you somewhat painful question for writers. Okay. So, once someone gets your course and goes through the things and kind of, really responsibly does what you suggest and goes through the material and implements the things, are there any additional, how much investment does one needs to make in order to implement all those things?
None. Everything I show you in the course, I do two things for you. I show people, here's how you do it for free. But it's going to take you quite a long time and might be frustrating. Or here is a paid premium version that you can pay for and will be a lot quicker for you. So, once people have enrolled, I show them how to run giveaways, how to format their books properly, how to optimize their books for the different websites, how to do Facebook advertising, all the ways that I build traffic and convert it into fans. I show them how I do that and what tools I use. But I also show them, if you don't want to pay to use this tool, then you can do it for free. And then I walk them through the process. Then it's up to them to choose. Personally, I'm at a stage where I would rather pay a few dollars to just get it working quickly. But I know that some people want to do it themselves because, I did everything myself when I was starting out so that I understand how it works. So I show people how to do it. So once you're in the course, you don't have to spend another penny if you don't want to, which is kind of what I wanted to get to, because not everybody wants to spend thousands of dollars on Facebook advertising or website design or all this stuff. So the whole intention was to show people how to do it without a big budget. So no investment required once you're inside the course. And I also offer 90 plus minutes of training for free as well. So it is the full course is a premium training course. But I do offer a lot of free content so people can get some results straight away without having to pay for the course, and they can see if it's right for them. So it's absolutely all there for you, ready to rock.
Okay, well, great. I mean, because I have so many kind of people who end up thinking that maybe lack of big budget may be the issue of moving forward. So we dealt with that. And the course, do you feel comfortable sharing about how much does it cost?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm not going to tell people how much it costs because it's a meaningless figure. Until you see what the course can do for you and how it can improve what you're trying to achieve, then talking about price is just not going to help anybody. And this is why I put together a lot of preview content. I've got 3 training videos, 90 minutes of training for you, absolutely free. And if you go through that and you think, this is absolutely what I need, then we get on to the talking about the price. But if it's not something that you're going to get some use out of, that's a good opportunity for you to go take a look. So, we keep the lid down on the price until people have seen what's inside.
Okay, I see what you mean. So basically, where one should go to get those free materials before getting into the course?
Sure. I've got the 3 videos, the free training videos. I've also got a case study as well. Mm-hmm. And this is really cool because early on, I did some work with another indie author, and we basically implemented everything that's in the course. And we took his sales from, it was $20-$30 a month, and we bumped that up to $3,000 a month, within 6 weeks. We really focused on using everything that's in the course to get those sales up and build that audience. He went from 0 readers on his mailing list, didn't even have a mailing list, up to over 1,000, just within a few weeks. Sales went up and it made a massive difference for him. And I've included that case study along with the free training videos. It's all up at yourfirst10kreaders.com and all the information is there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I see. So what would you suggest someone who's just starting, let's say, he doesn't really have 6 books out there. He's just writing his probably second one, let's say. Should he get a certain amount of books out there to start kind of going through materials and implementing some stuff? Well,
the email list is the most important thing, that you can never start too early. And whenever I talk to authors, they say the one thing they wish they'd started earlier was building up that mailing list because it's such a massive asset. And you don't need to have 50 books to make this work. You only have to have 1 book, or even you don't even have any books yet. You're just nearly ready to release your first book. You can absolutely start building that email list right now. Literally, if you take the information that's in the free videos and you implement it today, you will start getting readers onto your mailing list literally by tomorrow. It does work, and you don't have to have a big backlist. You just have to have something to give to people. Okay. In return for that email address. And, by the time you're ready to release your first book or your second book or your 50th book, whatever stage you're at, you will have that built-in audience ready to rock. You cannot start too early with this.
Okay, I see. So basically, we kind of, the way the interview went, we kind of concluded that the email list is the crucial part, the biggest part of the puzzle, and, the one we should build things around. But any more specific, anything else besides the email list one should be concentrating on in the very beginning? What else is, one should pay attention to?
you have to absolutely make sure that your books are the best quality they can be. And, we're talking getting a decent cover, not doing it yourself in PowerPoint, which I've seen, making sure it's well edited. This is the usual advice, and it's common advice because it's true. Your books have to hit a minimum quality level in order to be taken seriously. And it's no good giving away free stuff and getting email addresses if people don't like your books. Or they think there's spelling mistakes or sloppy editing, or the cover looks like a toddler drew it with a crayon. It's not going to work. You're not going to be able to offer someone something for free or for money if it doesn't look professional. So you're starting out, whether it's your first book or your 10th book or your 100th book, make sure it's the best product that you can possibly make it. And that does make a huge difference.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Because otherwise you will be promoting and letting more people know that your books are not good enough.
Exactly. You don't want that kind of publicity.
Oh, yeah, I see. Well, okay. I mean, I'm really grateful for all these insights you shared with us. It was really interesting. And these kind of stories inspire many people because basically, how long did it take? Just a couple of years to get where you are?
So it's close to 3 years now.
Yeah.
And two of those years were spent not knowing what the hell I was doing. And then one of those years was kind of spent understanding what I needed to do and then making it happen. So it's not a quick process. If you don't know what to focus on, it can be very difficult to kind of go down the right direction. And that's why you and I are here, I guess, is to help people steer themselves into a position where they know what they need to do. Because once you know what you need to do, you have the power to make that happen for yourself. Yeah. So hopefully you'll all go away from today, after your commute to or from work, and you think to yourself, right, I know what I need to focus on now. And then you think, how am I going to go make that happen? But that's the first crucial stage, is knowing what to do. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you very much. I wish our listeners kind of, to overcome everything much faster, since they already kind of have the filtered information in your videos. And I wish everyone very large and effective email lists.
Wonderful. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thanks a lot for coming over.
My pleasure. It's been fantastic. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Well, I guess that was all we had. I'm sure that the strategy Nick is using is quite simple and easy to replicate. So basically, I guess even if you have one book out there, just try it out and see what happens. Go and register to the free videos and read the case study, because they are really valuable. I've gone through them myself, and I've learned quite a lot from there as well. So basically, check it out at yourfirst10kreaders.com, and I'm sure you'll learn a lot there. Also, don't forget to get your free ticket to the Self-Publishing Success Summit at www.anialexander.com/SPSS. And of course, keep on writing. Of course, try to stay motivated and encouraged and inspired, because after all, no matter how many people here come and give interviews, and no matter how many solo episodes I make, after all, ultimately, it's basically your responsibility, and it's basically you who has to keep doing what you're doing, and who have to basically stay motivated and not give up and follow your dream and continue moving forward. So just make sure that you keep that strength inside, make sure that you still have the faith burning inside you, and don't give up. We'll be sharing many different techniques, many different strategies. We will be having many guests over. Each guest will bring in something new, and eventually, ultimately, sooner or later, you will get where you want to be. So take care, have a great week, and I'll meet you in the next episode.